Ooh, and we're live. Okay. Um, no one is here yet, but I'll give the intro anyway. I am Damon Courtney from BookFunnel. I am the CEO and creator of BookFunnel, which means that I know pretty much everything there is to know about BookFunnel. I'd like to welcome you all to my takeover of the Kobo Writing Life Facebook page. They wouldn't let me take over the blog. They did give me a single post, but they wouldn't let me, take over directly. We're currently in the middle of our fall fundraiser, so I want to thank you all for your contributions. Your contributions make Kobo Writing Life possible and allow us to have great guests like Carrie Ann Ryan and Adam Croft and the lovely Brian Cohen, who is very tiny. If you haven't met him in person, he's a lovely man, but very tiny. I'm also very large, so I'm a bit biased on that. Can anyone hear me? Can everyone hear me okay? Everyone being nobody. Oh, I see Laura down there. So I can hear me, so I'm going to keep talking. So BookFunnel is we are an ebook delivery service, an ebook distribution service. And what that means is mostly for you, for the Kobo writers, authors who are publishing their works through Kobo, is BookFunnel allows you to distribute your books outside of the sort of electronic traditional store system. Oh, good. There you go. So Laura just told me she can hear me, which is fantastic. So I'm not just talking into the wind. So the traditional, when people say traditional source system, some of you might think of like Chapters or Barnes & Noble. So we're talking about the ebook sort of traditional store system. So the Amazons, the Kobos, the Barnes & Noble, Nook for a little while longer at least. People are publishing those books. Indie authors are able to get into those platforms and publish their books and deliver them through those platforms. BookFunnel is what we like to call platform agnostic, meaning that we don't really care what kind of device they're on, what kind of app they're on. BookFunnel allows you to deliver to all of them, which can give you some really nice advantages. You can put a book up, offer it to a wide range of people, and it really doesn't matter what device they're reading on, whether they're on an Android or an iOS in whatever app they may be in, or whether they're on a Kobo e-reader or a Kindle e-reader. All of those things are supported. And that's kind of a tough job, supporting all of those different platforms, but that's really what we do here. And so that gives you the ability to do some really interesting things. We see authors doing all kinds of cool things with BookFunnel that you could certainly do. I mean, you can do a lot of cool things with Kobo too. They paid me to say that. Not really, they just let me have the page. So you can do some really cool things when you can reach readers wherever they already live. Things like building your newsletter. I originally built BookFunnel. We're going on 3 years now this October. So it took me about a year to build it, and we've been in business for about 3 years. And I built it so that I could do what everybody was sort of recommending at the time. And it's still sort of the recommended advice, which is building your newsletter up, or your mailing list, whatever you want to call it, but building up your newsletter and offering readers some sort of free gift as an incentive to sign up. Back in 2011, or even before that, when some of the old geezers started self-publishing, you could basically just hang your shingle out there and say, hey, join my mailing list, and people would sign up, no problem, because they wanted to get to know the authors that they already knew. They wanted to be, a part of their little world. But as, authors went on and wanted to discover newer readers, well, some of those readers were hesitant to spend $5 on an author that they never heard of, which is crazy when you consider that in, the traditional publishing world before that, people would drop $20 on a book, on a hardcover or a trade paperback from an author that they'd never read. But the race down was pretty rapid once ebooks sort of democratized publishing. So you can publish a book a lot more cheaply, which means you can charge a lot less. Readers very quickly got used to the idea that, ebooks cost less than $10. So you could publish those ebooks everywhere. Companies like Kobo and Amazon and Barnes & Noble made it really, really easy to put those books out there. But you couldn't really you could sort of do it for free if you put it up on all the stores, but then anybody could get it for free without necessarily having to go and sign up for your newsletter. And So, if you wanted to give away a free gift, if you wanted to give them something like a short story, even a full novel, if you write in series and you have a huge backlist, then it's really easy to offer the first book in the series free. And that was traditionally kind of what was done with indie publishers. And it was a great way to get readers to discover you, take a chance on you. ABBA. So I sing a lot of karaoke, so songs get stuck in my head. I will refrain from singing while you are all watching, though, because I don't have much of a voice left. I just got back from a conference, and so my voice is a lot more rattly than you would normally hear me. But I needed to give away, I had a 3-book series, and I was willing to give away the first book, which was the shortest and also a nice intro into my series. And I wanted to give that book away to anybody who wanted to sign up for my list. The theory being that, well, if I give you the first one for free, that you'll probably go on, assuming you like the story, you'd go on and you'd buy and read the second and the third one. In traditional sort of marketing, they call it a loss leader, or a lead magnet for the digital industry. And then the term reader magnet was coined as a way to give something to readers, and specifically a story or a book. But once you had something, there really wasn't a way that you could get it to everybody conveniently. You could hand them the files. You could just email them an EPUB file and say, here's your book, thanks for signing up. Most readers couldn't get that. And I couldn't find anything that really solved the problem. So I went out and solved the problem. So that was why I originally built BookFunnel. But since then, we've built on a lot of cool features that basically, we're in the business of trying to help authors sell books. And you can do that through direct sales. We offer a platform where you can sell directly from your website, and we'll handle all the delivery parts. But we're also, talking about sales through all the various bookstores, and you really should have your books available in as many places as you possibly can. All the better to reach as many readers as can possibly find you. There are 7 billion people in the world, many of them in parts of the world that don't have access to some of the books. So getting your books to as many stores as possible is going to increase your chances of getting that book in front of a new reader. And, I know that I'm a reader first. I became an author when I published in 2011, but long before that, I was a reader. I've been a reader my whole life. And I know that when I'm looking for something to read, it's very rare that I'm looking for a new book. I'm looking for a new author. I'm looking for an author that I can discover their work and then just tear through their entire backlist. When I find that author that I love, I'll read everything that they've got. And the evidence that we have at BookFunnel, we hear from hundreds and hundreds of readers a day. We communicate with them all the time. They email us either just to say hello, or they email us with technical problems, and we kind of help them through that stuff. But we get to see a lot of what readers are doing, a lot of what they like, and a lot of what they hate. And a lot of readers really love series, but they're doing the same thing. They're looking for the next great author that they can just devour their entire backlist. So if you can get one book in front of one reader, you might be able to make a super fan that will buy everything that you publish. And not every reader, not every fan that comes along, every reader that comes along and reads your stuff is going to necessarily turn into a super fan. But the ones you do turn into a super fan, they're going to buy everything that you write. And the term was coined over a decade ago, the 1,000 true fans, which in ebooks selling at $4.99 a piece, I don't know that 1,000 true fans is necessarily going to get you a living, but certainly if you could get up to 2,000 or 3,000 true fans who would buy everything that you published, you can absolutely make a really nice living publishing books if you can keep the flow going, if you can keep publishing. So I know that the biggest point of that was getting readers to discover you, getting readers to find you, and then once they do, making it as easy as possible to get your work anywhere that they happen to already be reading. So some of the things that we see authors doing, I guess the more interesting things, everybody, you all should be out there sort of publishing your books everywhere. But here are some things that we've seen authors doing that we think are really cool and that give you some ideas of the kinds of things you can do with BookFunnel or with really anywhere. It's not necessarily specific to BookFunnel. I'm a terrible salesman, by the way. I'm an engineer. But the kinds of things that we see authors doing are, I asked the question earlier if anybody was publishing short stories or novellas, and several people were. And we've seen a lot more lately with authors doing entire series of novellas. So they publish one novella after the other, which is great if you can, if you're faster at writing novellas, which generally most people would be. You know, the average, so I'm a fantasy reader, that's elves and dragons. You know, the average fantasy novel might tend to be 120,000 words, much larger if you get into like the George R. R. Martin range. But let's talk about like average writers writing average books for average people. A fantasy novel might be 120,000 words, whereas a novella might be 30,000 words. So 4 novellas packed into the size of a single fantasy novel. We've seen a lot of authors, especially in it seems like science fiction and fantasy seem to do really well, of authors publishing novellas more frequently, because the readers are, readers are always happy to get books faster, no matter how fast you can possibly write them. They want more and they want it faster. It doesn't matter if you could put out a book a day. Somebody would still complain that you're not putting them out fast enough because they read 5 books a day. And some readers actually do, which is crazy to me, but there you go. So I have 3 kids. I don't have that kind of time. But, the faster that you can put them out, the more material that you're going to have out there in the world, and the easier it's going to be for readers to find you. So one of the, Laura just asked, and one of the big questions we get all the time is, authors have gotten this advice that they should be out there building their newsletter, build up your mailing list. And that is absolutely true. You should be building a newsletter, a way that you can directly communicate with your fans. Facebook is great. I mean, I'm sitting on it right now. Twitter can be great, but those platforms can take your fans away from you. Facebook a few years ago allowed you to reach your entire audience with the click of a button. Now they let you reach anywhere from 1 to 5% of your audience unless you pay to boost the post. So now they're charging you to reach the fans who've already said that they want to hear from you. And that's how Facebook makes their money. And you can't really fault anybody you can't fault a platform for making money on their platform. But the message is that you should be building your own platform. But one of the things that we get a lot is authors have gone out and they've built up this newsletter. So they have a few thousand people on it, and now they don't know what to do with them. We see that all the time. And I think part of that is that a lot of writers by nature tend to be introverted, a little shy, or it is difficult for them to reach out and talk to people. Even if we're just talking about over email. I have the same problem. When I write a newsletter, if I'm writing an email, even something for BookFunnel, we're announcing a new feature, something like that, it takes me almost all day to craft an email, to put together an email that sounds like me, and it sounds like my voice, and it's funny, but it's not too funny, and it's informative, but not too informative, and it's not too long, and it's not too salesy. All of these sort of things. It takes all day, and it's exhausting to craft an email like that. And we see a lot of authors that have the same problem. So the advice I have for you is write them a short story instead. I can slip into my world and my characters in no time at all. I can pick a few of my characters and I can write a 2,000 or 3,000 word short story in my world in no time at all. And I know that even for you writers out there who are not particularly fast, you can still write a short story in maybe a few hours a day if you really had to. But I know that a lot of you out there have ideas for short little stories that you could write that I know that you could probably rattle off in a few hours, especially if you're writing in a world that you already have. I've created in fantasy and sci-fi and even in romance, there are these, you've created this world, you've created these characters, and you already have readers who are in love with them. So it's great that you can write them a quick short story. You don't have to give a lot of backstory. Everybody reading it is already familiar with your world. You don't have to go into a lot of the backstory. So you can just give them a nice 2,000 or 3,000 word fun story, especially if it pertains to the characters that you already have. We see a lot of authors, even in romance, and even some authors that are publishing standalones, they take a character from their book that didn't get a lot of screen time in the book, and they'll go off and write a quick little short story with just that character. Sometimes we, as authors, we don't necessarily know which characters, which parts of our world are going to connect with people. And so sometimes that character that you thought was a fun little throwaway ends up being the one that really connects with readers. Write a short story and send it out to your newsletter. So the nice thing is that you can write them very quickly, but also, you don't have to make those free for the entire world. You can take a short story, you can give it to your newsletter and say, hey, you guys get this special little thing that I only give to my newsletter, and then you put it up for sale on all the rest of the sites. So being a part of your fan group, being subscribed to your newsletter comes with benefits. And the message that you send can literally be, hey guys, I wrote this fun little story, I thought you'd enjoy it. That's it, right? I don't care how introverted you are, anybody can write something that simple. And I've seen a number of authors use those short stories as a way to have engagement with their readers when they don't know what to say. Another one that I've seen authors doing is serials. So we talked about, if you look in the industry, serialized fiction has gotten a bad rap from some people because distributing serialized fiction tends to be a little bit harder. Kindle tried it with their Kindle singles, or they had I don't remember. But whatever, they killed it because they do that a lot. So we have a number of authors on BookFunnel who regularly send out a new episode of a serial that is maybe 10,000 words a piece. So serials, we're just talking about taking some larger work and breaking it down into smaller chunks. So they take those smaller pieces and they send out one a week or one every other week. And what that allows them to do is have true regular engagement with their fans. If you've got 20 episodes of a serial and you're publishing once every 2 weeks, that's 40 weeks that you have something to say to your readers without necessarily having to craft these really personal emails. And the beauty is that, we've seen enough from readers to know that some people really love a personal connection with their authors. They want to hear about your cats. They want to hear about the illness that you're battling. Some readers hate that stuff. They don't want to hear from you. They want to hear when you have something new to read. They want to hear when you have something new to buy. Sending them a short story, sending them a serial, sending them something to read will make every single reader happy. Every reader on your list will be happy to get more content from you because that's what they're really for. That's what they want. Tara asked the question, do you have any tips on getting feedback from a newsletter? Yes, absolutely. Send out those stories, send them a fun short story with that side character, and then ask them either in the same email or just the next email. And again, you don't have to write these really long emails. Some people are really, really good at this stuff, and they make the rest of us feel like crap, like we can't craft these beautiful, perfect little emails. That's okay. You don't have to do that. Send out that short story. Then the next email you say, hey, I hope you enjoyed the character. I hope you enjoyed the little story, the little side story about John. What character would you like to see a story about? Right? And then you're going to get an immediate engagement back from that. You're going to get readers who read the story and loved it. And yeah, I would love to see a story about this other character that's my favorite. Or they didn't read the story, but now they're tempted to go back and read it because they want to see what you did with that story. And maybe they can get their favorite character into the next story. Same thing with serials. If you are, we've seen a few authors that are serializing an existing work. They take their book and they're just sort of releasing it chapter by chapter to their newsletter, which it was kind of like having your own little personal Wattpad, right? If for those of you who don't know what Wattpad is, it's basically just serializing fiction, but it tends to skew to a younger audience. I know my younger nieces read all kinds of stuff on Wattpad. But if you have that newsletter and you have your own list, then you can start sending those out to them. But if you're doing a true serial where you're writing episode by episode, I've seen a few authors that are actually tailoring it as they go. Not quite a choose your own adventure kind of thing, but with each new episode they put out, they ask questions about where do you think the story should go next? Where should we go with this character? What should we do with this plot? And readers really, really respond to that stuff because they're hearing from their favorite author on a regular basis. And again, if you're doing something like a serial, you're getting a weekly or a bi-weekly engagement for free. I mean, not really for free. You're writing the story. But the beautiful thing is that when you're done, when you actually wrap that whole story up, let's say you go 20 episodes. So you've had this really long, wonderful engagement with your fans and you're asking them questions and they're sending you comments back. When you're done and you wrap the whole thing up, you literally wrap the whole thing up, take it, put it together as a book, and you have one more piece of content that you can publish everywhere. And your fans, they get to feel really special because they got to read it as it was being produced. And we've seen enough from fans through BookFunnel that they love feeling special. They love feeling like they're a part of your author journey. And that's why, you know, we have ARC readers, ARC advanced reader copies. We have readers who read advanced copies and get really upset when they can't review on time. They'll email us and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. My mother went into the hospital. I didn't have a chance to review this book. I promise I will review it by next Tuesday." There are, and I know people struggle getting a lot of authors struggle getting reviews, but just know that there are fans out there that love their authors so much that they get upset that they are not doing what they promised to do, which is pretty awesome. What is it's Chrissy Monroe, who is the head of Kobo Writing Life. If you don't know her, she's fantastic. She asked the question, what is my favorite karaoke song to perform and why? I don't have the video of Chrissy and I doing karaoke together, which was about a month ago. And if I did have it, I would totally post it to her objections. My favorite karaoke song to perform is probably Sweet Transvestite from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And why? Because it's just a great song. It's fun, it's funny, and everybody gets a good laugh out of it, but it also happens to be a really great song. Also, I look really good in leather. So back to what we were talking about. Oh, we got more people joining. So feel free to pop in to the chat with a question if you have one. If not, I'm just going to sort of keep going on. So we were talking about engagement with your newsletter. I will say, you know, BookFunnel doesn't really have any affiliation with anybody. Tammy Labrecque's Newsletter Ninja. If you go and check out that book, which is published everywhere on Kobo, Newsletter Ninja, go and check that book out. It's a fantastic book on how to set up a newsletter and how to, more importantly, how to communicate effectively with your fans. Tammy does a fantastic job of telling you how to be, you know, almost teaching you how to be authentic and how to be engaging, which again, for me is really kind of hard. I could certainly, you know, rattle off some email, much like this sort of stream of consciousness that I'm doing right now, but that doesn't really work so well in email. You want something that is short and sweet and something that will make people happy. And she does her book does a really good job of explaining. Oh, look, they've even put a link in the show notes. So go and check that book out if you're really struggling with setting up a newsletter, or if you're struggling with what to say to people. That's a great way to start. It's a good place to start. So back to shorts. I love short stories when they are, now here's the caveat. I don't actually read almost any short fiction that is not in a world that I'm already in love with. So if I'm reading a series from an author and they've got 3 or 4 books out in the series and they publish short stories in that world, I will absolutely pick up every short story that they can come up with. I'm a completist. When I love an author and I love a series, I want to read everything about that series. I want to read every side adventure, every side character. Again, we're talking about fantasy, so side adventures are, you know, all over the place. I want to read everything that I can about that series and from that author. I don't generally fall into short fiction that is the sort of speculative, you know, science fiction type short fiction. Although I've read some really cool ones, it's not really my bag. So, but when I love an author and I love their world, I want to read everything that they've got. And you can take those short stories, the things that you're literally writing the short stories to engage with your audience as a way to keep up with them and keep them listening to you. You know, the worst thing that you can do, and we see authors doing it all the time, is build that mailing list, build that newsletter, and then never email them. And authors are out there doing it because they feel like they've read all the advice and everybody says you should be building your newsletter. So they go off and they do that, and they work up and they build up a newsletter, and then they don't email them. And that list will go cold very, very quickly. And then the readers won't remember you. You know, readers have more content to read now than they have ever had in the history of the world. There are so many books being published, indie published, traditionally published, every single year. Readers have just a huge abundance of things that they can read. And what, of course, you want them to read is your stuff. And the way that you're going to do that is to find a way to be memorable, find a way to engage with them in a way that when you have that new book out, they're going to go, oh, right, I really like that guy. I really like that author. So you want to keep them engaged in some way. But I do know that authors, myself included, have a really hard time and struggle with that engagement, being able to send out those really personal emails. So that's why I recommend just write them a short story. Everybody loves it. So Nathan asks, what's your favorite book funnel related newsletter hack? I would guess, honestly, the serialized fiction is probably the coolest hack that I've seen. For all the reasons that I talked about, but for the people that are just coming in, you have regular engagement. Let's say that you decided to send out a new episode every week, and an episode doesn't have to be 10, 12, 15,000 words. You can do a serial of fiction that's basically a chapter length, 2,000 words, 3,000 words. The reason I think it's such an awesome hack is that if you have trouble engaging with your list, a serial is a free way to get engagement in a way that readers are going to love it. Every week you're putting out a new episode, and so they have something new to come back and read. You get a very long engagement, assuming that you're going to serialize something over 10 or 20 chapters. Even as few as 10, you're talking about having 10 weeks of, or 20 weeks if you're doing it biweekly, of regular engagement with that newsletter. And by the end, when you're all done, you take the whole thing and you wrap it up and you have another book to sell. So it's not like you're wasting time sending to those readers and then, well, now I've got this serial and what I'm going to do with it. No, you have a story. You have something that is beginning, middle, and end that you can wrap it up and send it out to people. The authors that we've seen doing that through BookFunnel are doing amazingly well with the engagement, and they have really, really high engagement. You can tell we can tell because we have all the stats, but when you look at the stats, the number of people that get episode 1 and then come back, they have a really, really high read-through rate. Again, because for their mailing list, at least for their newsletter, they're offering the serial for free. You're almost getting to see the writer write it as it's happening. So they're offering it to their newsletter as a freebie. Hey, just for being a part of my fan base, just being a super fan, you get these extra cool things that nobody else gets. Nobody else is going to get to read this right now. They're going to get to read it later when it's all said and done. Marina asks, how do you find the sweet spot between never emailing and emailing too much? I would say anything more than a week is too much. Anything more than once a week, and even then for a lot of readers, once a week is too much. I personally would do every 2 weeks, if at most. Since I have trouble writing engaging emails, I would probably go once a month. You really don't want to go longer than about once a month. It's really easy to start forgetting the people that you're subscribed to for the readers that are subscribing to authors' newsletters. So once a month, I would say minimum. And then I think the sweet spot is probably every 2 to 3 weeks. Every 2 weeks, if you're giving them stories, right? You're going to get a much higher engagement and a much better response when you're sending them something to read instead of sending them something where you're either asking them to buy your new book or you're just telling them something about, something going on in your life. And I will say, if the only thing that you have to email them is, I'm still working on the next book, skip that email. Don't send it. Send them something else to read, or send them something fun. Send them something else that you have read recently. Remember that you're a reader too, and you are presumably reading probably a lot of fiction in the genres that you write in. Well, all the authors that are, or the readers that are following you, they're following you because they love that genre. They love your writing in it. So if you can take an opportunity to promote another author's book, I generally I try to tell people to move towards genuine recommendations. Like, I will genuinely recommend a book that I actually read and loved, not necessarily a book that another author has tried to get me to recommend for them, because it's genuine. You can genuinely say, I loved this book. It was a fantastic series. I think everybody, if you're on my list, you're really going to love it. So Kevin Tumlin says, if you include reading these serials for a podcast, you can produce an audiobook to release alongside the book. Absolutely. And for something like a serial, you could probably do what's called, podio casting, which is a silly name, but whatever. Instead of, hiring a full-blown narrator to do the narration, you can do something with, you can read it yourself. I generally would recommend against that. Don't do your own audiobooks unless you just really have no other way. I would try and read them yourself, I would try to hire a narrator who can read them professionally. Kevin Tumlinson's got in because he happens to have a radio voice that sounds fantastic, so he can read his own stuff. But if you were doing a serial, I think you could totally pull off reading the episodes yourself. And as long as you have a decent voice, not like mine currently, which is very rattly, then I think you could pull that off and your readers would love it. Again, if you're engaging with your own newsletter, then you have a way that you are making that personal connection in a way that selling a book on a website, on a store is not going to give you that personal connection. So sending out an episode every week is a much, much more personal connection. So one of the questions that I got earlier was about advanced review copies, and BookFunnel is fantastic for sending out review copies because you haven't published the book on all the stores yet. So you don't have the book out there available for everybody to get yet. You want to, the point of advanced reviews is you want to get the book out in the hands of readers early in advance. We're not very clever with our naming. In advance so that they can read the book and have their review ready to go on day one or usually within the first week. Some reviewers, like I said, are really, really awesome and they just can't wait to post that review. Others are not so great. Generally, you have to build a team. You have to build a really solid team of reviewers, people who really, really love your stuff, those super fans who want to read everything that you've got. And the great thing is they're going to leave you good reviews generally. If they love you, even if they didn't like that particular book, they're probably not going to leave a bad review because they love your stuff and they don't want to do that to you. So you build up that review team of readers that really love your stuff, and sending those early copies is going to get you a lot of that, what they call social proof. When somebody goes and looks at the book and they're just now discovering you, they see all those nice 4- and 5-star reviews of people that love the book, and that is proof to them from other human beings that, wow, this is a really good book. I should probably check this book out. And BookFunnel makes that really, really easy. Again, I'm not here to sell you on BookFunnel. I think it's fun. I love what I do. And I will say that if you are using BookFunnel, or if you're not, if you're considering it, send us emails. We love to hear from authors, especially when it comes to, our roadmap and the things that we develop at BookFunnel all come from our authors. We listen to our authors and what it is they want to do. And we're always trying to project out to what kinds of tools that authors are going to need 6 months or a year from now that they don't know that they need yet. And we want to be able to build those kinds of things. So what else did I have to talk about? Newsletters. We talked about briefly. We talked about newsletters, but the one that I see all the time is that newsletters are hard. Building newsletters can be hard. And to that, I would say, find other authors in your genre and try and group up with them and do smaller group promotions. I know that there are a lot of promotions out there that are really, really huge. Hundreds of books available, hundreds of books for readers to download all at one time. We don't find those to be quite as effective. You get a lot more people who are more interested in just getting a free book than they are in getting something from a specific set of readers. So doing a smaller promotion with authors that are narrowly focused in your genre. And man, if you think that science fiction is, a genre, you haven't drilled down far enough to see some of the niches that they have in all the other genres. Romance blows me away how many small niches they have that people are publishing in. And it's fantastic. I love that as a reader, I can find what I'm looking for, the kind of fiction, the kind of fantasy that I'm looking for. And readers love that too. So if you write military science fiction, for example, try and find other authors who are way into military science fiction. That means that every reader that your book is in front of is already a fan of the thing that you're writing. You don't have to struggle really hard to convince them to give you a try. If you've got the right cover, which you should go and look at the covers in your genre. If you're writing in military sci-fi, you're going to have different covers than people who are writing in space opera. Not terribly different, but they are going to be different. So if your cover matches the genre, if your blurb matches the genre, and it's attractive, you get that book in front of people that read military sci-fi, and they are going to give you a try. And that's the goal, right? I'm just trying to get you to give me a try because I think that you're really going to like what I'm writing. So So Maria asks, how do you think about giving away books for free other than as a reader magnet? Is there too much free books out there? There are a lot of free books out there. And this is where I was saying that you've really got to stand out a bit. Now, if you're dealing with those smaller promotions and you're working with other authors in your genre, then you're already kind of self-targeted to the readers that are going to be most interested in what you're reading. And keep in mind that I haven't met the reader yet who's not looking for the next great read, the next great author that they can find. Every reader out there is looking for the next thing to read. So you need to get yours in front of the right readers so that they can find you and decide that you're the next thing that they want to read. We see a number of authors that are doing probably one of the coolest things that I've seen authors doing recently is building on exclusive content for their newsletter. So things that they publish either first to their newsletter, so their super fans on their newsletter get these releases weeks or sometimes a month before they go live in all the bookstores, or they are simply handing out exclusive short stories only to their newsletter, either selling them or putting them up for free. Number of authors are using Patreon for this. They're building their own subscription service and using Patreon basically just as a way to collect the money, but as a way that readers can follow them and get every single thing that they publish, everything that they put out there. And so they are not necessarily doing free. I try to tell people that BookFunnel is in the business of helping authors sell books, and that seems, we started off handing, as a service that helped you give away books. So it would seem like that's not the business that we're in. But for me, the giving the book away was always the reader magnet to try and get people into your series so that you can sell more books. Getting a bunch of readers who just want more free stuff from you is not the way to make a living as an author. But I know that it seems like everybody out there is just giving the advice that you just give a bunch of stuff away for free and somehow you'll make money. And I know that you'll make fans. Sure, there are loads of people who love free books, but I think that there's no reason that you have to give everything away for free. Super fans, people that love your stuff, people that are already into what you're writing, they will happily pay you for your work. We see readers all the time. More and more authors have been using BookFunnel's direct sales platform so that they're selling directly from their website, and then BookFunnel's handling the delivery. We don't handle any of the sales part. We do the delivery part. But as more and more authors are doing this, we see messages from readers that say things like, I love them so much, I'm happy to support them. I want to give the money directly to the author. And I think that's fantastic. That's the kind of fan that you want, right? The one that loves you so much that they just want to give you more money. Lindsay Baroker is a fantasy and science fiction author, and she put up a Patreon because people wanted to get her books early. She had seen traditional publishers actually started selling their advanced review copies, which I thought was crazy. But I guess maybe they were looking at indies. The traditional publishers always seem like they're a few years behind the indies, but traditional publishers started selling their advanced review copies. So you could get an advanced copy of this book before it was published, before it was released, a few weeks or a month early if you were willing to pay $15 for it. So Lindsay saw all of these publishers doing this and decided, why not me? She has a really large fan base who love her stuff. So she set up a Patreon and started publishing her books early to her patrons 2 weeks early before she published it everywhere else for the same price that she published it everywhere else. She wasn't offering a discount. She wasn't offering them for free. She was just saying, hey, if you want to get it 2 weeks early, you can buy it directly from me through Patreon. You could do this. You don't have to use Patreon. You could do the same thing through your own website. The point is that her readers loved her so much that they were willing to give her the money directly, and they get the book 2 weeks early. So your true fans, they will absolutely pay for your stuff. So don't think that you have to give everything away for free. If you're really prolific, if you're able to write a short story in like an hour and then throw it out there, hey, your fans are going to love you if you're sending them a quick newsletter with a new free short story. Everybody loves free. So So Chrissy Monroe from Kobo Writing Life, it was asking about direct sales. Yeah, at Nink, Joanna Penn, who does the Creative Pen podcast, which is something that's probably far more interesting than the video you're currently watching. She's fantastic, and she had talked about setting up direct sales through her website, and it can be a little tough at first. The technology has caught up in a way that it's become a lot easier to do it. BookFunnel integrates with 5 different platforms, which I don't need to get into, but basically there are 5 different ways that you can put out your books out there and sell directly from your own website and let us handle the delivery part. So we didn't want to do the sales part. We specifically shied away from that because the problem of taking people's money, that was a problem that was solved decades ago. PayPal, Stripe, there's any number of ways that you can take people's money online. What we had was the way to deliver the books once the sale was made. That's the part that we're really good at. So that was the part that we built on. The nice thing about that is we don't take a cut of the sales because we're not involved in the sale process at all. So once you decide that you want to go and try setting up direct sales, and you don't have to put your entire bookstore online, right? You don't have to put your entire back catalog up in some giant bookstore. You can really just start with a single one-off short story or a novella. We've had a number of authors that have done a fun little novella that they wrote in their world, and they put it up for sale for $1.99 or even 99 cents. So, if you were to put that same thing up on Amazon, you get that low, you're only getting 35 cents on the dollar. You're getting that lower royalty rate. If you put it up for $1.99 from your own website, you're getting closer to 70% on that royalty rate, because it really isn't a royalty. You're just taking the profits. And you can offer that directly to your fans and then publish it up in the other bookstores. Sort of once you've gotten your fans and they got it early, you can then put it up on all the other bookstores. So we have videos on BookFunnel that will walk you through step by step how to set up every bookstore that we integrate with. So it's really, really easy to go and get all that stuff set up. And sales work, they probably work the best when you have something that you're not going to either, you're going to hold off putting into the other stores, or you're not going to put in the other stores at all. We try to tell people, don't offer the exact same thing that you're offering everywhere else. If your books are already on Kobo, they're already on Barnes & Noble, they're on iBooks, they're on Amazon, don't just add another button. Don't just say, oh, and also I sell it on my own website. That's chances are good that your readers are already on one of those platforms, and they probably really love the platform that they read on. They love their e-reader. So don't just give them one more place to buy the same book for the same price. Instead, offer them something else. If you really want to drive the direct sales, if you want to drive readers to buy more direct from you, then you want to give them something that they can't get in other places. Maybe you box up a couple of books, the first 3 books in your series that you don't box up anywhere else, and you sell it at a discount. So you can, the nice thing about that is that you don't have to drop the price. If your books are already selling really well on all the other platforms, you don't have to go adjusting your price or even dropping your price and lose the momentum of those sales. Instead, you're just offering a box set from your site that they can buy direct from you at a slight discount. And a lot of readers will snap that up. Readers love discounts. I don't think that should come as a surprise to anybody. Kobo, Chrissy has said on numerous occasions, that's Chrissy Monroe, by the way, that readers on Kobo love box sets. They love a box set of an author's work and at a nice discount. And it doesn't have to be a huge discount. If they love your series, they're just going to buy the whole thing anyway. And so selling those box sets, doing those things direct, we have several authors that have 8 and 10 book series that they only sell the box set directly from their website. So you can still buy all of the books from all of the stores that they're published in, but the box set, the one that they box up at a discount, no, they only sell that directly from their website. Because then, on a $10 box set, let's say it's $10, we're not even talking about $20 or $30. Some of the box sets that I've seen are $30 and $40 a piece, because it's a 10 book set that they're selling at that discount. But even on a $10 box set, you get to take, if you sell it direct from your website, you're taking home $9.50, $9.40. So 94% of the profit. You're basically just paying a small transaction fee for whoever, PayPal or Stripe or whoever's handling your money. So you can afford to box that set up. You can sell it at a discount, and you still you actually end up making more money than if you were to sell all three of those books individually through one of the bookstores. Sorry, Kobo, it's true. Kobo readers want more. So another one that I asked Chrissy about at NINC was, sorry, I have a bit of a cold, so I'm I'm drying out a little bit. One of the things that I asked about was this idea of what has kind of affectionately become known as rapid release, which not a very clever name, but really what it means is just putting more books out faster, right? So it should come as no surprise to anyone that readers want more from you all the time. They love their favorite authors. I know I still read authors today that I started reading when I was 15 years old, right? And I still love those authors. I don't have any personal connection to them, but I do have a connection to their work. And so unfortunately, most of them are in traditional publishing, which drives me absolutely batty because I get one book a year. I get one book a year from my TradPub authors, and that is infuriating. I would absolutely read everything that they put out as fast as they could possibly put it out. But that's not the way the traditional publishing works. That's not the way the system works. But you guys are indies. Indie authors can publish at whatever pace they want. And so more authors are using this sort of rapid release of, and what it really means is, if you're a prolific author that can put out a book a month, more power to you. Fantastic. A lot of authors can't write that fast. And so the rapid release, what is recommended is more, instead of releasing book 1 and then book 2 3 months later and then book 3 3 months after that, write book 1, book 2, book 3, hold them back, and then release them 1 month apart. And what you get there is you get that sales momentum. If people buy into book 1 and your ranks go up and suddenly now your book is in front of more readers, releasing book 2 is just going to boost you even higher. And then when book 3 comes out, you're going, the first and the second, everything is going to get boosted higher. And so I was asking Chrissy about it. I know that has been a big thing on Amazon, and Amazon really rewards that newness, and they punish everything else. So if you can't release a book it used to be 90 days. That used to be the cliff. Your sales would fall off 90 days. Then it was 30 days, and there's more evidence now that it's now dropped down to about 2 weeks. So within a couple of weeks, that new release that you worked so hard on falls and gets no more help from the elusive algorithms. So if you are not the kind of author who can pump those books out that quickly, you're not going to do as well. But a lot of the Kobo readers have not been treated to that sort of rapid release strategy because more authors were using Amazon that way as a tool. And so they were publishing over there and they weren't releasing them as rapidly on the other platforms. But once again, no big surprise, Kobo readers are like every other reader in the world. They want the books as fast as you can possibly publish them. So getting them put out there as quickly as you can, and if you can hold them back. Now, caveat, when I released my first book, if I had waited until I had written the second and the third book, I don't know that I ever would have finished them. I don't know that I ever would have had the willpower to plow through the second and third book without that win of publishing the first one and feeling that rush of elation when you get that first book published. So if you can't do it, don't think that it's the only way to make things work. It's not. But if you can if you're a prolific writer who can write quickly, or if you can bundle those books up and release them rapidly, you're going to make readers really, really happy. And more importantly, you're going to make the algorithms happy. The computer bugaboos that are all out there that prop your books up and put them up higher in the ranks. So that's something, and that's something that Chrissy was saying. Yeah, absolutely, Kobo readers love that. This is where, for some people, for some authors, they're really finding success publishing novellas instead of full novels. I met an author at NINC who basically puts out a novella once a month, and then every third or fourth novella boxes them up into a sort of an omnibus that basically is a full-length novel, right? So if you're publishing 25 or 30,000 words in a novella, then you punch those up together, you're talking about 100 to 120,000 words, which is a perfectly adequate science fiction book. Word counts are coming down, by the way. The traditional publishers had sort of ballooned those numbers up. So I know, when I was coming up, the bigger the fantasy book was, well, the more money they could charge for it, and the more readers were likely to buy it. That's why fantasy got into these gigantic door stoppers that you can club people over the head with, and science fiction sort of started ticking up too. What was once a perfectly wonderful book at 55 or 60,000 words ballooned up to 80, 90, and 120,000 words. But ebooks have made all of that sort of irrelevant. It doesn't matter. You can publish a book that's 60,000 words. You can publish a book that's 120,000 words. But readers are going to be happier if you can publish them more quickly. I would much rather read a novella from my favorite authors once a month than once a year waiting for the next book to come out. Of course, in traditional publishing, that's what you're stuck with. So hopefully most of you here are indies and you have control of your work and you can do whatever you want to do with it. So if you can break them up into novellas, if that's how you can rapidly release them, then we've seen a lot of authors really finding success with that. And the beautiful thing is that if you're bunching those up and you say, every third novella you bunch into a novel, then every third novella, you actually get an extra piece of work. You get an extra piece of content that you're putting out into the world. So, with each novella, you have 1, 2, 3, and then the fourth is a full-length novel that is the collection of those 3. And the more content you have out there, the better your chances of being discovered by a new reader. Each one of those pieces of content appeals to a different reader. Novellas, some readers like myself don't have a lot of time. So I actually love novellas. I can finish one probably in a night, maybe 2, and that lets me read, really enjoy the story, and then stop and maybe take a week before I can pick up the next one. If it's a huge doorstopper kind of novel, there have been novels in the last 10 years I would just love to read, and I don't have the time for it. They're sitting on my Kobo, and I don't have the time to read them, so I haven't started them. So there they sit. I paid for them. They're gigantic, 250, 300,000 word opuses that I haven't started, even though I love the author. It's Brandon Sanderson, by the way. He writes huge, gigantic books, and I love his writing, but I don't have the time to invest in reading it. So putting out those smaller novellas, I would much rather he release the book in chunks, which he's not going to because he's TradPub and they don't do that kind of stuff. But you, Kobo Writing Life author, you're not TradPub. You have the power to do anything that you want, and try it. Try different things, right? I tell indie authors all the time that you are the owner of your work and you can experiment with everything. You don't know what will work. You don't always know what your fans are looking for. You could ask them, if you're good at engaging with your newsletter, you could ask them, would they rather have a novella from you every 2 weeks, or would they rather wait and have a novel every 2 months? I'd be willing to bet that your readers are going to tell you they'd rather have more frequent releases from you, because it's kind of a universal. Every reader wants more stuff from you, unless you're Brandon Sanderson, and then I don't have time to read the stuff that you've already got out. So, do we have any more questions? I don't see any. What else can we talk about? Hey, have you guys seen the new Kobo forma? It's really nice. I don't have mine yet because Chrissy told me that she was going to bring me one, and she hasn't brought it to me yet. But hopefully I'm going to get one very, very soon. But it looks really, really neat. I have been to my local Walmart where they now are offering Kobo devices and Kobo books in the store, which I think is really, really cool. They haven't, it's still Walmart, so the customer service is Walmart level customer service, but the books are there, and I think it's really, really neat. So you can actually, so the cards, the little book cards, if you haven't been to a Walmart and seen, if you haven't been to Walmart and seen what they're offering, they have these little placards that you can buy, that you can take it up and they'll get you a Kobo Aura, which is a fantastic device, but the forma is even better, so I would wait on that. They're sold out on Walmart.com, by the way. You can't buy the forma; they're sold out. But you can go into the store and you can get the Aura, and then sitting next to the actual devices, they have these little book cards. So for $10, you can buy, Diane Capri a set of her books. They have a number of different authors, and Chrissy had told me that they sort of rotate those in and out once a month. But if you're not a big author, it may be harder for you to get something like that into certainly into a Walmart, but to even have something like that. So BookFunnel, we built this feature that we call print codes. And what it allows you to do is to print unique download codes that are redeemable for one copy of a given book, whichever book that you want to do. So you can print out these codes, and you can print out cards, either postcards, which are kind of the size of the little Kobo cards in the store, business cards, or even credit card size, and you can print those out and take them with you. And I've actually, it's pretty awesome. I ran into several authors that handed me their business card that had a BookFunnel code on the back, which was really kind of surreal to be handed basically your own product, have it handed back to you. But it was really, really neat. Authors, I tell authors all the time, you don't know when you're going to meet a reader. I know Kevin Tumlinson, who might still be in here, has had several people approach him at airports and say, they recognized him and how much they loved his book, which, we all wish we could have that, but we all can't be Kevin Tumlinson. So, but, you bump into readers all over the place. Standing in line at the library, standing in line at the grocery store, taking your kid to a birthday party. If you've got in your pocket a business card that has a free copy of your book sitting on the back of it that somebody can redeem, that is another way that you can find a reader. And I know that sometimes it seems like, you need to go for this sort of mass, trying to find readers en masse, right? So reaching out, and how can I reach 20,000 people, and anything less than 10,000 isn't worth it. But, fan bases are built one reader at a time. And all it takes is finding that one reader, turning them into a super fan to have somebody who will buy everything that you can publish for the rest of your life. I know that I have mine. I guarantee you, every person in here is a super fan of some author that they will absolutely buy sight unseen, whatever their next novel is. And you want to find and make those fans, and you only make those one at a time. You don't make those sending out, an email to 20 and blast to 20,000 people. You're not going to make super fans that way. You're going to find leads. You're going to find people who could turn into super fans. But the only way you make super fans is one reader at a time. So carrying around those business cards, carrying around little postcards that have a free copy of your book on the back is a really fun way to meet people and have something to say, and not just say, I have a book, but say, I have a book here. I'd like to give you, if you feel like, if you're interested, go and pick it up. Here's a free copy of the first one of my series. And you're more likely to get a reader that way. Somebody that you met in person, somebody that you actually shook hands with, that you saw eye to eye, you're much more likely that they're going to pick up the book and read it than somebody who picks up, your book in a promotion with a bunch of other books. And then those books just sit on their e-reader, and they never quite got around to yours. So carrying around those little print codes that we made, and that was why we made it. Authors were going to RWA, and then now Kelly Gilbert was talking about the Book Lovers Con that they're doing in New Orleans, which is all about readers. Book Lovers is a con that used to be Romantic Times that is going to be all about the readers. So the readers all show up, and they're all, generally, by and large, they're all romance readers, and they love their authors, but I guarantee you they're there looking for more authors that they can fall in love with. So if you're carrying around a pocket full of free books, you have a way that you can reach those readers. You can hand them that card and give them a copy of your book. Oh, we love it. Yep. Oh, Christy Monroe said that. Yeah, Lindsay Baroker has this simple goal: find one new reader every day. And you think about that, if you could add 365 readers a year to your superfans list, that list of those people who will buy everything that you put out, it wouldn't take you very long to have a fantastic list of people that will buy all of your stuff. And the term "the 1,000 true fans" was coined about a decade ago, and people credit it to Seth Godin, but it wasn't actually him that said it. What he said was, in the future, everybody would do well to find 1,000 people to be able to make a living by only having 1,000 true fans. Meaning that if you could only find 1,000 people that would buy everything that you had, you want to be publishing enough, you want to be putting enough content out there that you can make a living with just 1,000 people. Now, I would shoot higher, 3,000, 5,000, 10,000. But I mean, if you're talking about 3,000 or 5,000 fans that truly are super fans and love your stuff, they are absolutely going to buy everything that you can publish. And if you're putting out a book every few months, that's a really nice living. What do we got here? Oh, so Todrick Candle was saying that she used print codes on postcards at the Indie Book Fest last year, and readers were really excited. Meeting readers in person is always going to give you a closer connection than just randomly getting an email on your newsletter. One of the cool things that you can do with BookFunnels print codes is that not only do you hand them a code, but when they go to redeem the code, it offers them the opportunity to also sign up for your newsletter. So you're saying, here, I'm giving you a free book, and then it's optional. They can check a little box that says, yeah, I'd like to follow Todrick Candle and hear when she has new releases out. And again, because you've made that little bit of that personal connection, you're going to have a much better chance of that person reading your book and then making a super fan out of them. So we're going on where it looks like we hit an hour here. So do I have any final questions before we wrap this up? I will be in the Kobo Writing I will be in the Kobo Writing Life page all day today, in and out. I'm going to go get some lunch first. But then after that, I will be in and out all day, so that if you have questions, please post them. I'm happy to answer. And any other questions, email help@bookfunnel.com. Our team, or even me personally sometimes, though not much these days, we're happy to answer any questions that we have. So Kelly Gilbert says, I'm in a group of women's fictions. We published complimentary books, the first chapter chapters, and use BookFunnel Deliver. Thank you. Yes. If you're in a group, we've seen, last thing I'll mention, we've seen several authors that are sort of banding up together. They write in the same genre, and they're creating these sort of smaller author collectives, which are great because there are, sort of niche small publishers out there that will publish sort of, a small publisher that might publish all clean romance, which is great. Readers know that when they go to that publisher, that all the books that they're going to find there are in clean romance, which is what they read, it's what they're interested in, and it's what they want to find. But those are acting like traditional publishers in the sense that they are taking a cut of your book sales. They are doing a part of, they're publishing the book for you. We've seen more and more of these sort of smaller author collectives popping up, where 10 or 12 authors that all write in military science fiction get together and help each other promote their books, right? If each of you has your own mailing list, your own newsletter, but you know that everybody on those newsletters has has a nice fan base that loves military and science fiction, then you have a built-in shared audience between 10 or 12 of you that all love the thing that you're writing. Romance authors are doing this like crazy now because those readers tend to be very specific in what they read. If they like clean Christian romance, then that's what they want. They want clean Christian romance. And especially when it comes to romance readers, and especially the clean romance readers, they want to know that the thing that they're reading is not going to include the extra steamy bits that they are not interested in. They really want that clean romance. So gathering up a bunch of authors and everybody's working together, each person is publishing their own books, but they are combining their marketing efforts and sending people to common pages into a common newsletter where those readers know that everybody who's involved in this collective is writing exactly the kind of books that I want to read. And that's that can be really, really powerful. I think that works so much better than a small publisher, because everybody is still indie. Everybody can still do everything that they want to do with their books, but you're able to help each other with your marketing efforts. A dollar spent by one person is magnified by 10 or 12 because that one click that you drive from Facebook to that page is helping everybody in the collective. That's all I have to say. I will be around in the KWL group. If anybody wants to ask any more questions, I will be there for the rest of the day, in and out. Thank you so much for coming.